We want to attract people to the message of health. We have to radiate it. We have to show it. We have to demonstrate that it works. Otherwise, like the professor, he's telling people, don't smoke. Every cigarette takes 13 minutes of your life while he lights his next cigarette. Doesn't sound very convincing, doesn't it? So, I have a special friend with me here tonight. Come and join me here. I met her. I don't even know exactly her name. But tell us who you are and where you live.
My name is not Bob. And I thought for sure he'd learned his lesson and he was going to let me hold the mic like after his presentation this time. My name is Alita. I'm from Charleston. And what else did you want me to say?
Okay, so that was good. Okay. So far everything is right. I don't give you the mic.
Okay.
I learned that lesson, okay, but I'm sure you will honor me nevertheless. But you made some lifestyle changes sometime in your life, right? Why?
Because I have severe arthritis, osteoarthritis. I was in a lot of pain. I started doing a lot of research to try to figure out how to get out of my pain. And I was not bedfast, but I wasn't going out very much. I wasn't able to do hardly anything.
So pain can be really a motivator for looking for new answers, right? So what did you do?
Well, first thing I did was pray. I didn't do anything without God. And I said, God, you got to go with me every step of the way. This is going to be hard for me. I got off my meds. I started exercising, and I changed my diet. And also had a more of a positive outlook. That changed a lot of stuff, too.
So what kind of changes did you make? You got into an exercise program? Why don't you try this?
Yes, I do. Actually, I'm a member of Planet Fitness. Not only do I go there, but I do run some what I'm able to do. I walk every day and I run, and I work out when I can. I was working out like an hour every evening, and some people thought I was exercising too much, but they don't realize I had to do that to begin with. Yeah.
No, wait a minute. I don't understand. You had arthritis, right?
Yes.
And when you have arthritis, you have lots of pain.
Yes.
You have pain in your joints. You have pain in your joints and your hand fingers.
Foot.
And doesn't that cause you not to exercise because it's painful?
It does some people, but it didn't me. I was watching these videos, and it says that the only way for your joints to get oxygen is for the blood to take it there, and the only way for the blood to get there is you have to move the joints. Mm-hmm. And I had a bad foot, really bad foot. I was limping, and I was on a cane. And I just said, well, okay, Lord, help me through this. And I just started exercising my foot, through the pain. I had tears coming down my face, but I was doing it. I was exercising really hard. I was jogging and moving, and eventually the pain started subsiding. I was able to run after that. I was able to not use no cane. I don't hardly feel any pain in my foot now. I do my hands the same way. I exercise my hands.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
She could be on a cane today.
She is not. Did you get the message? Arthritis has to do with proper circulation to the joints. And sometimes when the joints are swollen and they're very painful, that's when you have to get into the exercise, which is very painful. She said she had tears in her eyes in the beginning, but this is what brings then the oxygenated and nutritionally-laden blood to the joints, and they begin to gradually restore themselves. So you're doing very well. We're very proud of you. Thank you for inspiring us. Today we want to talk to you about a very big subject. I want to give you a slim view of a broad subject. I want to talk to you about extra weight. And I want to give you the fail-safe formula. If you have tried all kinds of ways to lose weight, I think this is probably going to be your last time that you try something, because if you try this, you will win. We'll give you an almost full fail-proof guarantee that you will lose 1 to 2 pounds if you follow some of the suggestions that we're making to you today. So let me introduce the topic by reading you something that you have never probably have heard. It goes like this: creation, as you may have never heard it before or explained it before. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, and He populated the earth with broccoli and cauliflower and spinach, and with apples and pears and mangoes, and with green and yellow and red vegetables, and with fruits of all kinds, so men and women would live long and healthy lives with unclouded minds. That's the purpose of health reform. Unclouded minds. It's not just to get the cholesterol down. It's to have unclouded minds, to be able to commune with God, to have a clear spiritual center that's properly fed by the circulatory system that brings the nutrients to the frontal portion of the brain, where we are sealed. Are you with me so far? So God, in the beginning, populated the earth with broccoli, cauliflowers, and spinach, and with apples, pears, and mangoes, and with green and yellow and red vegetables, and with fruits and all kinds, so man and woman would live long and healthy lives with unclouded minds. Then, using God's great gifts, God's adversary, Satan, created Ben & Jerry's ice cream and Krispy Kreme donuts. And Satan said, you want chocolate with that too? And man said, yes. And woman said, and as long as you're at it, add some sprinkles to it too. And they gained 10 pounds, and Satan smiled. So God created the grains. And woman learned to bake 7-grain bread so that she might keep the figure that man found so fair. And Satan invented white flour from the grain and sugar from the cane and combined them, and woman went from size 6 to size 14. So God said, why don't you try my fresh garden salad? Then Satan presented blue cheese dressing, buttery croutons, and garlic toast on the side. And following this repast, men and women had to unfasten their belts. And God then said, I've made for you fruits and vegetables and whole grains and legumes to enjoy to your heart's content and to keep your arteries wide open. And Satan brought forth deep-fried fish and chicken-fried steaks. And steaks so big, it required larger plates, and men and women gained more weight, and their cholesterol went through the roof, and their arteries began to clog. And God created a light, fluffy cake, and God named it my manna. And he pronounced it very good. Then Satan created chocolate cake and named it devil's food. And then God brought forth running shoes so that his children might lose those extra pounds. Then Satan provided cable TV with a remote control so that man would not have to get up anymore to change the channels. And man and woman laughed and cried before the flickering blue light in high definition, and they gained more pounds in all their rounds, thus blurring their once so pleasant condition. Then God focused his attention on the potato, naturally very low in fat and high in nutrition. And Satan peeled off the healthful skin and sliced the starchy center into chips and deep-fried them. Man and woman gained more pounds. God then showed women how to fill whole wheat pita bread with the delicacies he had provided to satisfy man's appetite. And then Satan created McDonald's and its $99 double cheeseburger, and he said, you want fries with that too? And a milkshake too? And man said, yes, and supersize them too. And Satan said, it's the very best. And man went into cardiac arrest. And God sighed. And then he created Chip to highlight his whole food program and to restore once more his image through man's lip. But Satan countered, nobody will ever want to eat that. And instead he pushed for drugs and stents and surgery to treat the symptoms and the damage done so freely, and man went into bankruptcy. And then one of my Chip participants wrote this. He added this one. Then Dr. Diehl, a servant of God, and his Chip evangelists went into the countryside and taught the people about the evil of processed foods, dairy, eggs, and meats, and the wonders of a whole food, plant-based diet featuring all the colors of the rainbow, macronutrients, micronutrients, and phytonutrients to both prevent and reverse chronic diseases. And the people tried the food, and behold, it was very good. And the people lost their excess weight. They normalized their blood pressure and lipid levels. They lived better with fewer medications and became healthier and happier. And Satan and his brother Big Pharma were banished to the deep fryer forever, where there was crying and weeping and gnashing of teeth. And without livestock operations, the land was used to grow food for people. The aquifers, the water underneath the ground, was replenished. The climate was restored, and the rainforest grew back. And God saw that the people turned back to him and his whole unprocessed food, and he was pleased because he was the original designer. So people returned to the garden where food was abundant, and they were not ashamed of their nakedness, and they ate to their heart's content of all in the garden except from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, and they lived happily ever after on an earth made new. I sometimes wonder how God, the Creator, feels. He made us, he redeemed us, he created the foods that were designed to keep us in good health, to be staying functional, and we are sell out to the adversary. Pass on the double cheeseburger. We want to have our corpses We want our chickens. We want our dead meat. And God says, I had such a much better plan for my children. How can I win them back? And so he sends a Spirit. But the Spirit cannot get through to the center where God communicates with us, because the arteries are blocked and narrowed down with all the buildup of cholesterol and calcium and fat in the arteries. And God says, I need to do a miracle. I need to reach out to the people. I want to reach them. I've given the best I had. I allowed my son to die for them. I want them to come back. And that's where we're today. Rise up. The mission is now. People everywhere are looking for genuine health concepts that are delivered with great loving care. People don't care how much you know, but they want to know that you are really caring about them. And sometimes you don't have to say anything. You just live your life, and they observe you. And as some of you lose weight, they come to you and they say, what are you doing? Are you developing cancer? People are always thinking the worst, isn't it? They're always so negative. He said, no, I've just made some changes that I wanted to make long time ago. But I came to a special program here, up on a hilltop. It was absolutely gorgeous. And I decided I want to make a new commitment. I want to try it once more. I want to get back on God's program. I want to affirm that He is a creator who instills health in us. And they say, tell us, how did you lose that weight? We want to join you. And so you develop a friendship circle. It was larger and larger. We had 5,000 people in the city of Rockford in our CHIP program over a period of 3 years. The change took place. The restaurants, we had 27 restaurants that began to serve healthy foods because they said, we want to help you to make this a healthier city. The large food supplies started to change. When I came there was only one non-dairy milk, sort of a substitute milk, a soya milk product there on the shelf. When I left 3 years later, there were 49 different brands. Oat milk and potato milk and almond milk and rice milk, because people said, we begin to understand that maybe there are some problems with milk. There are allergic reactions and everything else. We want to be on the right track. And I went to the manager of the large store there in Rockford, and after I'd been there for about a year, I went to him and I said, I want to apologize. My program has not done very much to enhance the sales of meat in your town here, has it? He looked at me, he said, you have been a blessing to us. We have never made such a profit until you came here to this town. I said, explain that to me. He said, do you know, we don't make our profits on the meat, we make our profits on spoilable food. When we get raspberries, they stay there for 2 or 3 days, and then they are gone. They can no longer be used because they begin to spoil unless people buy them right away. And when you bring your people in, they all want to have fresh fruits, and they buy, and they buy, and they buy. And as a matter of fact, he said, they sometimes buy 25 pounds of bananas. And I said, tell me how that is. Oh, he said, you know, some of our bananas, sometimes they may begin to turn a little bit brownish. And then these people from the CHIP program, they come and said, we're looking for bananas. Do you have some bananas that you're going to give away? And they buy them. Well, actually, we give it to them. It makes it easier for us. We don't have to pitch them. We give it to them. And then I ask him, do you know what they do with these sort of very ripe bananas, overripe bananas? Yeah. They said they make ice cream from them. Oh, you can make ice cream from bananas. Yes. And we feed the people, 5,000 people, we feed them banana ice cream, and they all come to me and say, sir, this cannot be legal. This is tasting too good, because we have the champion juicer. And then on top of the ice cream, you know, the banana ice cream, we put a few raspberries, a few blueberries, something green, and then, of course, we always have a peppermint leaf there, because you want to make it appealing to the eye. People that are into health, they'll always understand that you have to reach out to the eyes of the beholder. It has to look good, and it does look good if we use just a little bit of ingenuity. A sprig of parsley can brighten the plate of food. A leaf of spearmint on some banana ice cream can make everything sparkle. Obesity. What can we do about obesity? Let's just go over it and take a look together. We have seen this before. You have seen that we have not had that much overweight in our society until the 1975, 1970s, 1980s. That's when it began. And let me show you what I mean. This is, of course, the 50 states of the United States. And you see here by color the amount of obesity in the population. In these states here, the light blue color, less than 10% of the adults have obesity. Not just overweight, obesity, big time, right? So less than 10%. This is 1985, 1990. Now you can see a new color coming in. Now it's 10 to 14%. It's 13% of the adults in these states have obesity. 5 years later, it's now 18%, a new color. 5 years later, it's now 23% of the adults have now obesity. 5 years later, it's 28% of the people have obesity. And let me just go back here one more. And then you come to 2010, and now you have more than 30% of the adults are obese. They're at least 20% above what they should be. What's very interesting to me is that when you look at this, it always begins here and here. Now, I don't know what that little place is. Do you know what that is here? You are in competition with number one being the largest population in a state with Mississippi and Louisiana. And this is then also here what we sometimes call the coronary corridor. This is where the most heart attacks happen. They always start out in here, in this area here, and it travels up in this area here. And once you have this corridor established, then it always spreads all across the country. Why do we have so much obesity in this state? Give me some answers. Tell me. I want to know. Why do we struggle with so much obesity here? What is the reason? Please raise your hand. Yes? Is meat eating making you large? No, does meat eating cause overweight? It does? Oh, the fat in the meat. Is meat fatty? Oh, okay, okay. So you say there's something to do maybe with meat, and you said something about dairy. Oh, dairy. Well, if you have skim milk, is that going to be fattening? No. What you really mean is the cheese. That's where the fat is. There's no fat in skimmy milk. That's all taken off. That's blue water. That's what we call it, blue water. That's not a big issue, but it's the cheese, probably that's what you mean. What else? So we talked about fatty dairy, fatty meat, fried foods, like what? French fries. What else? Fried hamburgers, okay. Fried ice cream? Yeah, they have that too. Fried pickles. Okay, what else? Why are we struggling with so much overweight here? What is the reason? What are some of the reasons? What can we do about it? Okay, so you gave me 3 answers. Okay, so the number one was, you said processed foods. Are processed foods high in calories? Big time. Do processed foods have fiber, which fills you up? No. So you have to eat a lot of candy bars to fill that pouch, right? So, processed foods. The second thing you mentioned was poverty level. So you have a lot of poverty here in the state? Okay, and how does that relate to obesity? I mean, if you have poverty, wouldn't you eat less?
They're on a lot of food stamps, and they only their money restriction is cheap.
Okay. I don't really buy that. I don't think that processed foods are cheaper than real food. I don't buy that. People say that. People say eat at McDonald's is cheaper. I don't buy that. Okay, what else? We'll talk about that a bit more.
Just the lack of education.
Oh, lack of education. Oh. Okay. So what about Mississippi? Is that kind of a state struggling with education too? Yeah. So education has something to do with it. So what we need to do then to help people is to provide genuine education in the area of health to make wiser choices. For instance, if they have food stamps, I mean, I sometimes have seen people buying food with food stamps to buy food that I could not afford. And so I have suggested, and this is coming now, that maybe the government should have an educational program that goes hand in hand with the food stamp program so that people have a better understanding so they can make wiser choices, and perhaps the food stamps will go much, much further. Because just imagine how many lentils you can buy that you buy as with dry lentils versus lentils in cans, right? Okay, so these are very good ideas. Okay, what other areas do you think we could consider? I want to write that out to the governor, so I'm going to collect some good ideas from you here. Sugar? Sugar and soft drinks, these are empty calories, no nutritional value, just calories. Okay, what else can we do? Salt? Oh, did you hear that? That's a very smart idea here. When you have a lot of salt in your diet, it actually causes your body to hang on to water. Because the body cannot stand all that much salt, it affects adversely some of your organs, such as the kidneys. And so the body now begins to hold on to water to dilute the salt that you eat, that you shovel in. And so many people, they may be 10, 15 pounds extra weight because of salt that is hanging on to water. So if you go on a low-salt diet, you begin to shed some of that water, and so you lose some weight right there. It's not just the fat that comes off, but also the water comes off as you go on a low-salt diet. Anybody else here? Sedentary lifestyle, that's the same thing that you had suggested. Yeah, if we would exercise more, we could burn more calories, right? Okay, does that work very well? Can you lose weight by exercising? It's part of it, okay, yes. Oh, yeah. Okay, you have some very good people here. He's saying that the government is pushing out excessive amount of surplus amounts of dairy and so on that is being sent into the school system, and it's all free, and we get the kids to start on the wrong diet early in life. True? Exactly right. Anybody else? Anybody else? Oh, very good ideas. Yeah, how do you do this? How do you help people to say, you got to get up in the morning and have a big breakfast? Oh, no, I want to lose weight. I skip breakfast. I don't want to have all those calories. And you're in trouble now, because when you don't have breakfast, you're going to chip away at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. Then you have something, fast foods. Then at 2 o'clock, at 4 o'clock. If you have a big breakfast in the morning, what do you mean by that? Some McNuggets? Some biscuits? What are we talking about? We're talking about Bob's Red Mill grains. Do you have Bob Red Mill here? That's a fabulous product, actually. It's stone ground grains. And you can have 5, just a minute, you can have 5 grains, you have 7 grains, 10 grains, you can have all of these different grains. You cook them. You just cook them. It's easy to do. You just make the water boil, pour some of the grains in, and you let it sit there, turn off the heat, or put it on simmer for 10 minutes, and it's done. And what you put in before, you put some raisins in, maybe some dates, maybe you put some dried pineapple, whatever you have around the house, some fruits in there to sweeten it up, and you have a wonderful breakfast right there. And then you pour some almond milk or some of these kind of things on there, and you have a nice 7-grain cereal bread. You're ready for the day. You have a big breakfast, and you have a light supper. That's a great way to go. Somebody came to me and said, how can I improve my sleep quality? I want to sleep better. I said, have your meal early in the evening. Maybe 6 o'clock, 6:30. Go to bed at 9, 9:30, 10 o'clock. Don't have the TV on. Take a nice warm bath. Have the windows open. Get some fresh air in. And say your prayers. And your best pillow is a clear conscience. We have a wonderful message. Yes. So what's the point now? Sedentary lifestyle, watching too much TV. Yeah, okay. Yeah. All right. Let's take a quick look here. When you are suffering from obesity, you have to worry about the likelihood of developing diabetes is 7 times higher. Anybody that is obese has a distinctive risk for being a diabetic or developing diabetes. When you are overweight and you are developing a little bit of an elevated blood sugar level, it's not a diabetic yet, we call it pre-diabetic. Within 3 years, 30% of these people will become total, full-blown diabetics. And when you have diabetes, you have taken on the mother of all chronic diseases, because diabetes, as we discuss tomorrow, will take your body apart, one organ at a time, diminishing your mental capacities, your vision, your hearing, your heart, your kidneys, your legs, everything, amputations. There is nothing quite like diabetes, and yet you can turn this disease around in weeks. Through 3-4 weeks, you can turn the diabetes type 2 around by just making some simple lifestyle changes. It's so simple, people don't take it seriously, except we have some 85,000 CHIP graduates in our program, and out of these, 15% of them are diabetics. Most of them are no longer diabetics. Then you have to worry about high blood pressure. If you're obese, the chance of high blood pressure is dramatically increased, 6 times more common, heart disease 5 times more common, arthritis more common, asthma, sleep apnea, and of course you have to also be reckoning with the risk for developing breast cancer and prostate cancer and colon cancer and cervical cancer, all in part related to obesity. Obesity is a big issue. Aside from that, for every extra pound above what you should be, you're giving up 1 month of life. The larger the waistline, the shorter the lifeline. So if you are 50 pounds overweight, that's 50 months of life. That's 4 years that you're giving up It's not that God pulls the plug. No, we have influences when and how long we're going to die and live. When you have a person that smokes, and the person dies at 45 years of age, they say, God pulled the plug. I've been paying my tithe, I've been going to church regularly, and God pulls the plug. Sorry, buddy, but you were a smoker. 2 packs a day, 40 cigarettes for the last 28 years. And every cigarette takes 18 minutes, 30 minutes of your life. So you can figure it out. You lose 8 to 13 years of life. You have to have a new concept of God. God is not the God that pulls the plug because he just doesn't like you. God allows you to do what you want to do. And you have to be prepared for the blessings and for the consequences. Are you with me there? So when it comes to obesity, I have some good news for you, actually. I have very, very many good news to you. But the best news is that you are not responsible for being obese. Is that good news or not? I thought you would all shout amen. You're all suspecting I'm setting a trap for you, don't you? Okay, let me then rephrase it. You are not exclusively responsible for being obese. Is that a true statement? Yes. So then if it's not only you that has a part to play, but what are the other parts, the other factors that are contributing to obesity? Let's take a look at that. Give me some ideas. Tell me some. Why are we obese? We talked about that a little bit already earlier, right? But let's develop that a little bit more. Let's unpack a little bit more. We are obesity because, this lady says, there are certain things in food that make food addictive to us. Let's talk about that later on. Be sure you remind me of this, okay? What are the factors? We only think about our human pleasures. And taste is a pleasure, especially when taste is a perverted appetite. What about advertising? Yeah. Does advertising play a role? Do you know the more television you watch, the more obese you become? Did you know that? Do you know that? Do you know what happens when the commercial comes on? The volume always increases because these people know that when the commercial comes on, the people will usually get up and millions of feet will water down the stairs. And they go down to the kitchen and they open up the compartment and the freezer, and what comes out? Something that's sweet, cold, slides down the throat. The television ad, the ad, this is the pause that refreshes. Because when we get up, we don't go and get some carrots and, no, it's better carrot cake, right? Yeah, I know. So, what about genetics? Does that play a role? I had this lady in one of my classes. There were some 300 people there. And she was a very feisty woman. I began to realize that very, very quickly. Because when I talked about obesity, and she said, it's genetics. My grandmother was obese, my grandfather was obese, my mother was obese, my father was obese. I am obese, my husband is obese, my children are obese. It runs in the family, there's nothing we can do. It's coded. I picked the wrong parents. Now, she was obviously upset that I kind of wanted to hold her in part, at least responsible for being what she was. She was very feisty. And I said, I'm kind of a nice person. I do not like fights. And I said, would you mind if I ask you a personal question later on? No, ask me now. All right. So I did. I said, would you mind to tell me, do you happen to have a dog? Yes, I have a dog. And is your dog overweight? Yes. Oh, is it genetics? Or is the dog eating like the master eats? It's not just the genes that we pass on from one generation to the next, but it's also the recipes that we pass on from one family generation to the next. Genetics. Genetics can play a role sometimes, but by and large, genetics is the gun, but the lifestyle is the trigger. We have to pull the trigger before the gun goes off. So if you are not blessed with the best of genetics, that's okay. As long as you don't pull the trigger, nothing will happen. Okay? Now, what about the idea of upbringing? You are a modern woman, and you have been brainwashed to believe that I don't want to have Cooper's droopage. I want to look always youthful and young. And so I fall prey to the advertisements of the bottle feeding. Do you know when that happens? You can very easily overfeed that baby. And with that, you can create billions of fat cells in that baby. And that baby will look like a hamster. And everybody says, oh, doesn't she look like an angel? Look at this. Not this scrawny little kid, right? And they don't understand that those billions of fat cells will stay with the baby forever as an adult. And as an adult, these fat cells are just like industrialized vacuum cleaners, sucking it all in, all the calories. And then that's why it's sometimes not that easy to just say you can blame everything on everybody in the same fashion. It depends on many, many reasons. Obesity is very complicated. We have to be very careful that we don't point our naked, skinny finger at people that are a little bit on the chubby side. We need to understand these people. There are many reasons why they are what they are. Some of them may relate to upbringing. Remember, when I grew up, my mother was always very successful in having me finish my plate. Because if I was just about not going to finish the plate, she said, remember, all the children in Ethiopia are dying because you don't finish your food. Today it might be China or some other or India. But you know, no, I'm an adult, we're adults. But you know what happens? You're in the restaurant and you're finishing your plate and you're full and there's still some food left. And I'm really very satisfied. And the tapes begin to play in your head. Finish your plate, finish your plate, finish your plate. Are you with me? Yes. These are all environmental factors that play a role. How about LSD? Labor-saving devices. You used to have the old typewriter. Remember? Then you exchanged it for a computer, and you would gain 21 pounds a year because you no longer used all the energy to push the keys of the old-fashioned typewriter down. I'll give you another example. You gain 15 pounds if you bring in a heating blanket in the wintertime to your bed. Because now the body is no longer in need of vibrating to kind of create warmth underneath the sheets, because the heating blanket will take place of it. So modern labor-saving devices can also contribute to gaining weight. What about thyroid problems? If you have an under-functioning thyroid, no matter what you do, you can do everything exactly 100% right, just like what I'm suggesting to you. It will not help you very much because you've got to have your thyroid adjusted first. So let's be careful that we don't become judgmental when we see a larger person. It might be a thyroid problem. Well, actually, every obese person would love to believe that they have thyroid problems. That would be a very convenient out, wouldn't it? But it's really only 2%. But nevertheless, these 2%, once they get their thyroid adjusted, their weight comes down and their cholesterol comes down. Cholesterol can be influenced by an under-functioning thyroid. Okay? So thyroid can play a role. How about why do people eat? Why do people eat? Comfort food, what else? It's habit? Depression? Oh, these are very interesting ideas here. Emotions? Yeah, to live. Habit? It's 6 o'clock, it's time to eat, right? Whether you're hungry or not, your body kind of gives you that signal. How about eating for emotions? Yeah. This lady came to me and she said, I was upset with him. My husband's a dentist. It was October, and he took off for Hawaii to attend a dental convention, a one-week convention in Hawaii, and I am in Michigan. It's October. It's cold, and I'm angry at my husband. Why didn't he take me along? It's 11 o'clock at night. I'm standing in front of the big mirror in my bedroom. I'm disrobing. And just for a second, I let it all hang out. And it's such a shock facing the naked truth that I turn off the light immediately. And then I go downstairs to the kitchen. And what do I do there? Get some ice cream. And what do I do with the ice cream? I load it up with what? Cool Whip. What else? Syrup, caramel, Oreos, ripe nuts, and a maraschino cherry on top. And then you take it all in. It slides down nicely. It's sweet, cool, and your anger diminishes. I deserve this because this louse of a husband, he didn't take me along. You go to bed and you're okay until the next morning. And the next morning, what happens? You kick yourself because you have broken your code of honor. You were going to surprise your husband. After 1 week, you wanted to lose 2 pounds. And after just the first night, you've already broken your promise and your goals are gone. So why did this woman eat all this ice cream? Anger. feeling upset, feel left behind. How about when your favorite, what's the best sport? What are you known for here in the state? What is the best sport? Football? What's the team? What's the team? VU. Okay. So let's say they won a game and you celebrate with what? With celery sticks? No. With the worst food, right? And then they lose, and what do? You're going to celebrate again. Not celebrate, but you drown your disappointment. When we have a baby born, we serve the worst food to celebrate the occasion of a new arrival. When somebody dies in the family, again, we use the worst food to celebrate and to memorialize the occasion. Not understanding that this is the wrong way to go. We have weddings, wedding cakes, right? That's how we start our life together in good health. How about availability of food? Well, let me just go through this for just a minute here. You see, we have a sedentary lifestyle. We already mentioned that. You see, we have become more and more sedentary people. We no longer burn the energy. And then look at advertising. Could advertising affect our food choices? Yeah, look at this. McDonald's spends about $1 billion a year here in America in advertising their foods. And they say it's cheap, and it's good, and it's standardized. It is standardized. It's always the same food. It's always high in cholesterol. It's always high in fat. It's always high in making you overweight. But it's standardized taste. That's true. But then we set aside $1 billion to market McDonald's in America, and the National Cancer Institute, which is supposed to take care of our health, they advertise fruits and vegetables, and they have a budget of less than 1 million. You can't even see it. It's so small. So if you have an advertising budget of 1 million versus 1 billion, guess who's winning out? Yeah. People buy what they see. It's tantalizing. There's a visual image. They sense the sizzle sold through advertisement. And then you check out the dairy industry. They spend $200 million a year to sell you on the idea that unless you take 3 glasses of water, you will have fractured bones from osteoporosis. And the truth is that the countries that consume the most milk have the highest rates of osteoporotic fractures. Countries that drink the least milk have the strongest bones. We're just being told the opposite, and we hear it again and again and again, and after you've heard it so many times, you believe it. Somebody talked about that there are certain aspects to our foods that can make the food addictive. You've heard about this book called Salt, Sugar, and Fat? How many of you have read this book? This is compulsory reading for anybody that breathes. That means everybody of you. Everybody that breathes is under obligation to really want to read this book. It's a book that will make you absolutely mad. It's one of the best written books by a Pulitzer Prize-winning author, by Michael Moss. Outstandingly documented. What he did, he interviewed retired executives of large industrial corporations that are producing junk foods. Now you see, when you are an executive in these companies and you get your paycheck, you don't really talk to anybody. But once you have been retired, and all of a sudden you begin to realize that you're part of an empire that seduced people with foods that were addictive, and you contribute to the lack of good health, then sometimes you are much more willing to spill your guts. It's almost like a blood money. So that's what he did. He interviewed these executives that used to work for these huge corporations, and many of these corporations that are producing these junk foods are owned by Philip Morris. Do you know who Philip Morris is? The tobacco industry. Now, let me ask you a question. Do you think Philip Morris knows something about how to addict people? Do you think they know something about this? Do you think as they bought these companies that now produce these junk foods, do you think they would have an interest to use their talent of addicting and habituating people to these products? That's exactly what they did. They would go to the finest, to the largest brain research center in the country and would say, tell us how much salt, how much sugar, how much fat do I have to put into my product so that people become addicted? So this is what they have done. Let me just shake you up just a little bit here, because it's really a nasty thing. They knew that if they put enough sugar into these products, it takes less than half a second of tasting the sugar on your taste buds to sense a pleasurable experience in the pleasure center of the brain, similar to a heroin addict experiences. And they call this the bliss point. The bliss point. When you have enough sugar in that Oreo, within less than half a second, you sense the joy. When you give rats a choice to choose between heroin and sugar, the rats will choose the sugar. These are addictive, habituating substances. And sometimes people come to me and say, well, I just wish I had more willpower, then I wouldn't eat so many of these things. I said, it's not a matter of willpower. Well, sometimes it might be, but in general, it's not that. It's that you don't understand that there are substances such as sugar in these products that cannot help you to stop after one M&M. You've got to have a second M&M. You have to have the whole bag finished. They talk about the bliss point related to sugar consumption in these products, in these processed foods. They engineer potato chips, and they know exactly how much salt to put into the potato chip, because that's another one of these special bliss points. At that moment, you cannot say no to another Pringle. Have you ever tried to eat one Pringle and then say, that's enough? No, you have to finish the bag, right? You have to finish the tube. You cannot say no. It's very difficult. Did I tell you the story of my Pringle thing? Did I tell you about this? Yes, I told you. How difficult it is to break a habit, even for myself. Well, I mastered that. I can get away with one Pringle, not one Pringle, yeah, one Pringle, I don't even touch it anymore. I can get away with one M&M because I've gone through the struggle in mastering it. But it takes energy to make that commitment and to draw the line in the sand. I don't need these things anymore. It's over. I'm divorced from these kind of things. And then you come to fat. They call it the mouth feel. They know exactly how much fat to put into a potato chip. They know exactly how much fat to put into a candy bar, so that you have this mouth feel. And you can no longer resist. It's habituating. It is an addictive process. So you begin to realize, when we talk about obesity and who is responsible, it's a very complicated issue, isn't it? There are many factors surrounding us, our environment. And then we have magazines that have beautiful pictures on the front. They look like pencils. Remember Twiggy when he came to this country here from England? He looked like, psh, nothing there. There was nothing shapely there. Shh. But that was the new model. And people then, especially women, they think they have to live up to these kind of crazy models. And they become very the self-value goes down. They feel, I'm no longer good enough. And so they choose food as pacifiers. Food is a wonderful pacifier. Food never argues with you, just more, but as a piper to be paid. Here is the book, Salt, Sugar, and Fat. Write this down. Go to Amazon, get this book into your hands, give it to your kids, leave it in the bathroom for someone to read. This is a very important book, Salt, Sugar, and Fat. This meticulously researched book tells the chilling story of how a processed food industry is making a fortune by slowly poisoning an unwitting population. It's all about money. And then you see the change that took place in 1972, 1975, the development of the fast food industry. Here you see McDonald's alone has 35,000 restaurants in 119 countries with revenue of over $27 billion. It's a huge business. And this is then what we eat now. Please take a look. 50% of the calories we eat comes from processed foods, 35% comes from animal products, and then only 14% comes out of the hand of the master designer. Folks, I wonder how God sometimes feels if you believe in a God that created. When He made the best food for us, and we only choose 14% of all the calories that we eat. And mind you, we begin to realize more and more that if you have more calories coming in than going out, what do you do with those extra calories? Or you store them. Where do you store them? In the central fat bank, right here. Right? Central bank. Right? Sort of nice rolls, sort of love handles. And as you put more calories in and fewer goes out, the central bank begins to overflow and sets up branch offices all over your body, on your arms, your thighs, your hips, everywhere. And then you look in the mirror one day and you say, oh, I have a family union coming up in about 3 months. I need to find an answer very quickly. I have to shed this weight. I'm embarrassed. And what do? You look for the latest fad. And what do? They have now the grapefruit diet. You eat grapefruits and grapefruits and grapefruits and grapefruits and grapefruits are coming out of your ears and you're losing weight. You're doing it for 14 days and you're losing weight. Guaranteed it works. Because this is built on the principle of monotony. You don't really enjoy this stuff, but you do it because you want to lose those pounds. And then when the 14 days is up, I lost those 4, 5, 6 pounds. Now I can go back to my diet again. You see, to the original. You haven't learned anything. You've only tricked yourself. And you say, well, this grapefruit diet didn't work too well. They have now a red grape diet. It's called the Mayo red grape diet. And so they tell you, eat grapes and grapes and grapes and grapes and grapes, and that's exactly what you do, and grapes are coming out of your ears, and guess what happens? After 3 weeks, you will have lost 9 pounds. And you say, boy, this is really working. I feel so happy. I lost those 9 pounds, and you go back to your old dietary program because you haven't learned anything. If you want to be successful in weight management, let all diets die. There's no room for a diet in your lifestyle program for losing weight. Shall I say it again? Let all diets die. But you need to not focus on the scale, you need to focus on health. Eat for health, and the scale will take care of itself. And when you do this, when you eat for health, you will lose 1 to 2 pounds consistently a week. And so when you want to lose 50 pounds, well, give yourself 25 weeks. And in 25 weeks, you will have lost about 50 pounds. And you say, well, I don't want to be quite so narrow on this. I'll give myself an extra 5 weeks. So I'm going to make it 30 weeks. I can lose 50 pounds. Great. It's a great program. That's what you need to do, and you will be successful. But you have to make some changes, and I'll talk to you about them in just a few minutes now. So you see, whenever you have 3,500 excess calories, so that is to say, you have your whole, the number of calories for the day, but then you add in the evening 1 more slice of apple pie, a la mode. You're just alone, just you and your spouse. And you got this nice apple pie in the refrigerator. We don't want to let this thing die. We don't want to let this spoil. Let's enjoy it. And so you have now 2 slices that evening, right? 2 slices, and right there you have 1,400 calories extra, more than what you need. You do this for 3 days, you will have gained 3,500 calories, which is 1 pound of fat. People sometimes come to me and say, we count calories. I said, please don't count calories. That doesn't work. You know what I mean by counting calories? They try to keep track of everything they eat. No, don't. Don't count calories, but calories do count. Just think in terms of larger concepts. Think of foods that are low in fat, low in calories, foods that are high in nutrition value, and you'll be okay. I'll give you some examples in just a minute. So whenever you have 3,500 calories accumulated in excess of what you really need, then you have gained 1 pound of yellow fat on your body. And so when that happens, you usually say to yourself, I have to eat less. I have to cut back on your volume, right? In German, we have a saying, it says, fress die Hälfte. Eat only half the amount. They say the most important exercise for losing weight is push away from the table after half the amount has been eaten. Well, does that work? So you cut back on your serving size, and you live on semi-starvation diets, and you're hungry all the time, and you say, it's not worth it. This is a miserable life. I mean, I enjoy food, I enjoy the taste, and I can only have a small portion, and I have to think about this all the time. It's too restrictive to me. I can't do it. So there must be something else. So if it's not food, how else would you lose weight? You can burn more energy, right? How do you burn energy? By exercising, yeah. So that's what people do. Exercise more, burn it off. Don't you see the television programs? The Biggest Loser? But you don't know that these people are exercising 10, 11, 12 hours a day. That's why they lose weight. Besides, they're very careful on their foods as well. So, I had these 2 ladies coming to me at the university at Loma Linda, and they said, Dr. Diehl, we would like to lose some weight. They were in my age group. You know, I'm 72 years of age. They were 72 years of age. So we want to lose some weight. I said, good. Do you want to change your diet? No. Oh, you don't want to change your diet. What do you want to do? We want to exercise. Can you give us an exercise prescription so that we lose a certain number of pounds in such and such a time? I said, yeah, I can do this because they're formulas. They're mathematical formulas. We know that for every mile that you walk, you burn about 100 calories. So you can plan how many miles you want to walk, and that will give you some idea of how many calories you will burn up. So I told them exactly what to do, and I said to them, what I would like you to do is I'd like you to walk from the medical center to Stater Brothers, which is a big store there. And then I said, that's 1.1 mile. And then when you go back, that's 1.1 mile. I want you to walk 2.2 miles. That means you'll be burning 220 calories a day. Is that reasonable? Is that what you want to do? I said, yeah, that sounds good. So they come back to me after 3.5 months, and they said, Doctor, your program doesn't work. I said, I beg your pardon? I said, wait a minute. And you know, these were 2 ladies. I always like to pair people up, so there's accountability structure. So I asked the lady, did you both walk together every day? No. What did you do? Well, we walk 5 days a week. Oh, that's good. 2 days is mercy. You have done it, what I wanted you to do. 5 days a week for the last 3.5 months, and you have gained weight. Have you changed your diet? No. Must be our glands. Something has changed. Could you check our thyroid? I said, the thyroid wouldn't change all of a sudden. There must be something else. Now, let me see if I really understand you right. You have walked every day from the medical center to Stater Brothers to this big grocery store and then back. Is that right? Yeah. That's 2.2 miles. You've done it 5 times a week for the last 3.5 months. That's right, sir. There's something not right. Now, let me see if I really understand this. So you start at the medical center and then you go to Stater Brothers and, and do you go inside there? Yes. Oh. And what do you do there? Oh, sir, we have just worked so hard. We feel we deserve a little bit of recognition, so we buy ourselves a Krispy Kreme donut. I said, you have just burned 220 calories, and the Krispy Kreme is 400 calories. Of course, every day you walk, you gain more weight. And I said to one of the ladies, you enjoy that Krispy Kreme donut, don't you? Oh, yes. And how long does the joy last? Oh, about 5 minutes. But there's a residual value. We sort of think about it as we go back. I said, so you have 5 minutes intense pleasure, yes. And then you gain weight. Is it really worth it? And the lady said, oh, yes, doctor, it really is. That's called addiction, not being aware. If you want to lose weight, walking and exercising is not a very efficient program to lose weight. It's much easier to just go off the Krispy Kreme donut instead of walking 4.5 miles every day. Just take a look at this one here. If you want to eat one Krispy Kreme donut and you want to make up for the calories that you take in, you have to burn up calories that will demand 4 miles of walking. If you want to have that super Coke with fries and a Big Mac, you have to walk for 7 hours to burn it off. Folks, if you want to lose weight, you have to be unemployed. You have to walk all day long. The way to lose weight is to change the diet. The exercise is something that you do because it's the right thing to do. You feel alive. You do agility training. You want to train those muscles. You know, especially when you get older, you want to make sure that these muscles back here are strong. Because if they are not, and you go to a very special, quiet place from time to time, and then you try to sit down, and you just collapse there. And then, after everything is done, you have worked so hard to be productive, and so it's done now. And then you try to get up, and the muscles are too weak, and you try to get up, and then you call your wife, you call the nurse, you call the orderly, help me, I can't get up. That's why you want to be in good health, exercise, to be in good muscle toning. Exercise is not so important for losing weight. It's more important for other things. So what we recommend then is, if you want to be successful in losing weight, eat more whole foods. You can eat all you want. You don't have to worry about anything, and you'll lose weight, and you will reduce your food bill, and your health will improve. Now let me just give you 5 rules here. Okay, number 1, reduce empty calories. You know what that is already, right? That is sugar. We consume about 30 teaspoons of sugar per person per day, mostly in the form of soda pops. What about these here? Do you see this? I recommend to all of my participants, really look at this donut. It's a beautifully shaped, well-rounded something, isn't it? But I want you to really zero in on the center. That's the only part that will not hurt you. Okay? And look at this. This is just one small slice of German chocolate cake, 15 teaspoons of sugar, a banana split, 25 teaspoons of sugar, and then this is what we give to our kids and grandkids. This is not cereal. This is sweet nothings. These are sweets. This is 50% sugar and 50% white flour. This is not what you give to children. This is not what you give to grandchildren. And people come to me and say, well, we're living in this state here. We have poverty areas here. Well, when do we eat oats? A whole pound costs you $1.85. This costs you $12 if you eat it like Fruit Loops when you look at the amount of grain that you find there, because here you pay mostly for sugar. You want to save money? Buy it the way God made it. The less refined, the better. So we need to reduce our sugar. We need to reduce our fat. Take a look. This is 14 ears of corn, and it will create 1 tablespoon of corn oil. Before they were able to industrially extract the corn oil from the corn, it was impossible to eat 1 tablespoon of corn oil equivalent because you would have to eat 14 ears of corn. Could you eat 14 ears of corn in one session? It's impossible because you have all this fiber here, all this good nutrition that comes with it. You could never do it. You can maybe eat 1 or 2, maybe 3. But how easy it is to take 2 tablespoons of corn oil in a German potato salad, and you don't even know it's there, and it just slides down easily. Calories, 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 because we have industrialized the food. And so when you have corn oil, then you put it into good use by creating corn chips. You know what 9 ounces is? Just a little bag of corn chips. Look at this. That's 1,400 calories. That's a half a pound of fat on your body. And it's very high in salt, and it's 90 grams of fat, and you shouldn't have more than 45 grams for the whole day. This is just one little bag of corn chips. They look so innocent. This is not corn. This is fat. I'll give you another example here. These are not Pringles. This is 1 tube of Pringles. That's 63% fat. 1 tube of Pringles. You can eat this in 10, 15 minutes. This is 10, 11 potatoes. That's also 1,000 calories. If you want to lose weight, eat potatoes, but don't eat Pringles or potato chips. Because potatoes are very, very low. They have no fat. Just be careful that you don't open up the potato and you put all the stuff inside, right? But we talked about it the other day. We talked about adding some lentil soup, perhaps, right? And then you don't have to worry. You can eat all the potatoes. And yet people have the idea, I cannot eat potatoes. That's starch. That's fattening. Where does this ever come from? You can eat all the potatoes you want. Put some salsa on it. Put some soup of yesterday on it. And you can enjoy them, and you will be filling yourself up, and you feel very satisfied. And you don't have to feel guilty. And you can thank the Lord for the potatoes that He gave you to eat.
You want to lose weight and keep it off and have a good time with it? Then you don't want to go on a diet. Let all diets die. Because if you go on a diet, you will go off it someday, and you will have the yo-yo syndrome going up and down and up and down, only frustrating you and your body. Instead, eat for health, change your lifestyle, do it for life, and the scale will take care of itself. Today's tip is to be careful, be wary about crinkly bags. Why? Let's take a look. Here we have some chili cheese corn chips. This is a small bag, 10 ounces. This can be eaten in no time. And yet, when you have finished this little bag here, you will have had 1,700 calories, which is half a pound of fat on your torso. That's right. When you finish this, you will have had 110 grams of fat. And we shouldn't have more than 30 to 40 grams for the whole day. Do you see? These are high-calorie packages. Don't eat it if it comes in crinkly bags. Here's another one, 10 ounces. This is called Crunchy Cheetos. What do we have here? This is now 10 ounces, 1,600 calories. And again, you have in this bag 100 grams of fat, and we would be much better off keeping it between 30 and 40 grams per day. Plus, it is also fairly high in salt. So be aware of crinkly bags. They look like innocent, but they're caloric bombs.
So be careful if the food that you eat comes in bag that makes that noise. Processed food, 580 calories. So we now talk about number 1 principle, reduce empty calories such as sugars and fats and alcohol. And we recognize that probably almost half of the calories we eat today have no nutritional value. They just have calories. Principle number 2, reduce animal products. We have nothing against animal products. I know that probably 90% of you folks here are meat eaters. I understand. And I only want to appeal to you, think about it. This is not the best thing you can do for yourself. We are concerned about animal products because processed meats are carcinogenic. They cause cancer. World Health Organization. Not my opinion. We also know that meat products are usually high in fat. You cannot lose weight unless you really cut back and eliminate, ideally, animal products. especially meats, sausages, cheese. Just to give you some idea, in our diet, 35% of all the fat that we eat comes from meat, poultry, and fish. Then another 31% comes from salad oils and shortening, and 15% comes from dairy products. So if we cut back on meat, poultry, and fish, we can eliminate 35% of all the fat that we eat. We will be much healthier because of that. Processed meats. We talked about the American hot dog. That's 85% fat and 15% protein. These are high-fat foods. Then you look at meat there again, you look at a sirloin steak, that's 70 up to 75% fat and only 25% protein. We don't need so much protein, and we don't need certainly that much fat. Then look at dairy products. Here you have cheese. Cheese is 71% fat. Cream cheese is 90% fat. I mean, you might as well eat Vaseline, that's 100% fat. It may not taste as well, does it? But these are high-fat foods. Milk is 48% fat. And you thought, well, it was 3.5%, I thought, on the carton. Yeah, that's by weight. But in terms of when you have a glass of milk, you have 160 calories. 80 calories of that milk comes from fat, which is about 50%. And we talked about the tremendous increase in the fat consumption in our society, especially since 1975 with the fast food industry. And we have so much cheese now being stored that they're looking for developing new recipes every day to put cheese into everything. And cheese has become now the #1 source of saturated fat, which is the #1 driver of cholesterol, which is the #1 source of driver of heart disease. So let's review. We said milk is about 50% of the calories is fat, ice cream is 55% fat, cheese is 70% fat, cream cheese is 90% fat, pork and beef is 70%, and nuts is 80% fat. So therefore we always say, use nuts sparingly. They're healthy foods, but if you use them sparingly, an ounce, no more than that a day. But please know, these are all high-calorie foods, and we consume them in too large of an amount. This is a typical diet per week in North Carolina. I was just speaking at Campmeeting in the Carolinas, and the people were shocked. I said, this is the average consumption of food in a North Carolina family, husband, wife, and 2 children per week. Do you see God's foods there? Do you see fruits there? Do you see vegetables there? Do you see whole grains there? Do you see potatoes there? Do you see legumes there? Do you see some nuts there? It's processed food. Folks, what I tried to tell you this morning is that we have not fully understood how our food selections have shifted ever so gently towards an American diet that is a secularized, industrialized food supply. And we as Adventists are no exception. When I have you folks go home, when you go back home, in a few days, I'd like to give you an assignment. Why don't you go home and then take a look at your refrigerator, take a look at your freezer, take a look at your pantry shelves, and take a look which are the foods that come out of the hands of the master designer. And you'll be absolutely shocked that most of it is processed food that is made for profit, not for health. We have slithered into the main standard American diet. Standard American diet. In short, SAD. That's a SAD program. We talked about Loma Linda. We talked about that Adventist people, some of them are total vegetarians, and some of them are, they use fish, and some people are lacto-vegetarians, and 50% of the Adventists in North America are meat eaters, and in this conference here, it's probably much more than that. Okay? That's usually what it is. When you come from here, when you go further south, the meat consumption patterns are changing fairly dramatically. Here's what we found the other day, that an Adventist women in general, weigh 180 pounds, while Adventist women that are total vegetarians weigh 141 pounds on the average, so that there's probably a difference of about 40 pounds. So if a person wanted to lose weight, I suggested to you, why don't you move towards a diet that has less meat and has more whole foods and plant-based dietary aspects to it. And the same thing is true for men. Men, usually Adventist men that are meat eaters, on the average weigh 30 pounds more than Adventist vegetarians. I'll be talking to the ministers tomorrow morning. If I would put them on a scale, and I know their height, I have a pretty good idea of how many people eat what kind of foods. Because it becomes very obvious. When I look at their cholesterol numbers, I have affirmation. Because the way we eat determines the way that our body gives us the biometrics back to us. So what about nuts? Use them sparingly, because just one small can, as you see here, that's a half a pound of fat equivalent. So use nuts in small amounts. There's a lady by the name of Ellen G. White. She always says, use nuts daily, but in moderation. This is the principle in here. It's better to eat the apples. You can eat 3 apples, or you can have half a glass of apple juice. That's the same number of calories. Would these fill you up more, or would this fill you up more? It's very obvious, isn't it? God is in the packaging business. He knows how to package food. The moment you begin to refine, you go from here to applesauce, you can easily overeat calorie-wise. Bread. We want you to eat good, wholesome bread, not white bread. We want you to buy the best bread possible. Can you buy here Ezekiel 4:9? The finest bread you can possibly buy. Comes from Corona near Loma Linda. Is produced by an Adventist bakery. It's outstanding, okay? Never save money on good, healthy bread. But then be careful what you do with it. See? It's the overhead that really makes it bad. The bread in itself might be okay, but what do you do with it? Number 3 principle, eat more whole foods. And people often come to me and say, well, if I cannot have number 1 and number 2, you know, the empty calorie foods and the animal products, what is there left to eat? What's left to eat? Fruits, vegetables. Help me. 3, whole grains and legumes. That should be the mantra. If you cannot repeat that when I'm finished in about 5 minutes, then I have failed you. What should our diet be like? We should eat more of what? Fruits, vegetables, whole grains, legumes, and a few nuts and seeds. Okay, very good. Okay, because these are all, you can see fruits, whole grains, legumes, vegetables, nuts. They're all very, very low in fat except for the nuts. And that's why we say use them sparingly. This is the kind of food that we should eat. This is what God designed for us. Look at the colors. The more colors, the healthier the food is for you. Well, let me give you a few examples before we sit down. You know, you've seen these Fig Newton squares, right? Yeah, I asked my medical students, I said, how many calories do you think you have in one of these these little Fig Newton squares? They said, we don't know. And I said, well, it's about 60 calories, that's all. And you can enjoy them once in a while. But then you could have eaten a quarter of a cantaloupe, that's the same number of calories. You could have eaten 1 slice of apple pie, 500 calories, or you could have eaten 5 baked apples. That's the same number of calories. This is man-made, this is God-made. You just, when you have some apple pie, invite 19 friends to come and help you. Don't eat it all by yourself. Do it as a special treat. When I go to medical conventions, there's always a happy hour, and people are there. They usually get their little jigger of vodka or some drink, and then they have a few nuts with it. That's 740 calories. They could have eaten 5 pounds of fresh fruit and 2 rolls. That's the same number of calories. This is what God made. This is man-made. I want you to meet my grandson. Look at this. You mean I can eat all this food and still lose weight? Absolutely right. How about a hamburger? This is a cheeseburger. That's 1,000 calories. You cannot eat any more cheeseburgers? You can, but you have to make it a portobello burger with eggplant. That's 200 calories, 250 versus 1,000. Choose. Choose. You don't have to become a monk. You don't have to live in a monastery, but you have to make choices. And the magic in really losing weight is to have food that is rich in fiber, because fiber fills you up. This has a lot of fiber. This is foods as it comes in nature. Lots of fiber. There are some calories there. There are not very many, but you see few calories, lots of fiber. Here you have refined foods, very little fiber, lots of calories to make your stomach feel full. And that's what happens. Here's the magic. When your stomach is full, it presses upon special sensors that are inside the stomach lining. They push pressure on it, and that pressure then sends a message to the brain, I am full, and your appetite goes down and you're satisfied. That's how it works. So if you have refined food and you don't have very much fiber, you have to eat lots and lots and lots of calories before your stomach is full and touches these sensors to send the message to the brain, I'm full. Are you with me there? Okay, we're just about finished. And I'd like to have our ABC lady come and join us here in a few minutes. In closing then, the principle, the most important cause of overweight is not that we overeat, but that we're eating the wrong foods. We're relying on heavily marketed, calorically dense foods. Small packages like candy bars. Small packages, but loaded with calories. You take them in, is your stomach full? No. So you take a second candy bar. Is your stomach full? No. You You take a third candy bar, is your stomach full? No. You take a fourth candy bar, is your stomach full? Maybe. And so now it's exerting some pressure on the sensors here, and it tells you, oh, I'm full. But in the process, you've just eaten 1,800 calories. If you would have eaten kale, you would have eaten maybe 150 calories. Just to give an example. The main culprit in overweight is not the food volume, but caloric density. We want you to eat more food of the right foods, and you never have to worry about it, because when that stomach is full with the high fiber foods, it sends a message to your brain, I'm full, it feels good. And you say after about 2.5 hours, I'm hungry again. That's probably true. Because when you eat fat, that fat sits there for 4 or 5 hours, and you just feel like, I told some of the pastors, I said, you know why your church members fall asleep during the sermon? Well, it could be the sermon sometimes, but it's probably people have eaten all this fatty food even for breakfast. And, it sits there for 3, 4, 5 hours. It doesn't leave the system. So we gave you 3 principles. Reduce empty calories. Number 2, cut back on animal products. Number 3, eat more whole foods God designed. Number 4, increase your daily activity, exercise, not for weight loss, but it's just the right thing to do. Are you with me there? And concept then is eat more, exercise more, but there's one more, 5th guideline I want to leave with you. Our daughter is a psychologist. And one time she called me up and she said, Dad, I'm sorry to tell you, but you're doing this all wrong. That's what you get when you educate your kids. I said, tell me what you have in mind. She says, Dad, have you heard of ACE, A-C-E? I said, no. Dad, you ever heard of ACE? No. It stands for Adverse Childhood Experiences. ACE, Adverse Childhood Experiences. She says, Dad, you tell some of these men and women that are very obese, they're 300, 400 pounds, and you say, come into the CHIP program, we teach you. Dad, it's all wrong. She said, Dad, for these people that are that heavy, weight becomes protection. They don't want to lose weight. I said, I don't understand. She says, Dad, 80% of these very heavy, especially women, they have usually been abused in childhood. They may have been abused in the early years of marriage. They may have been abused physically. They may have been abused sexually. Dad, these people, they're traumatized for life. Dad, we have ACE scores. The higher the scores for these abuses, the more overweight these people are, because the more traumatized they are. What you need to do, you need to send them into a special group process where you have a loving psychologist, where the women in particular, and men of course too, but where they can share the pain that they've experienced that may be 30, 40 years back. The abusers may have died, and they still hate and have resistance and resentments towards these people, and they want to stay large because they know when I'm large, nobody will even come close to me. I had this woman, she was a Catholic lady, lovely lady. She was very heavy, and she did very, very well. She lost weight. She came into a 2nd CHIP program, she lost more weight. She came to a 3rd CHIP program, she lost more weight, and then all of a sudden she gained weight again. And I couldn't figure it out. So one day I had a good talk with her, and I said, tell me, you've been very good, very consistent in losing weight. Why all of a sudden have you gained weight? She said, I'm scared. When I come to that lower weight, there's a magic number there. When I come to that weight, it seems like all the men are whistling at me. And I get so scared because I don't know how to handle my sexuality, because I was abused as a young person. So it's safer for me to put it back up as fast as I can. Obesity. It's a very complex issue. We've just taken a slim look at a very broad subject. The most important for us is to be caring people to those who have those extra weights. These people are just as valuable whether they're 100 pounds or 200 pounds overweight, or whether they're 5 pounds underweight. The same valuable people. We need to affirm these people because they often struggle with their own self. We're all looking for answers in different areas of our lives. We're all beggars looking for food. We're all struggling while bringing God into our lives. That's what I recommend to all of you. As you want to lose weight, I've given you 5 principles. Think about them. You can also find it in our books. Begin to practice these, and you'll find it's not that hard to lose weight. and you will actually enjoy it.